Rudolf Diesel is one of those rare inventors whose name became a noun, a sound, and even a smell you recognize at a busy truck stop. The diesel engine is usually linked to grit, torque, ships, trains, and the industrial age rolling forward like it had somewhere urgent to be. But there's another side of the story that feels more like a missing person case than an engineering biography, because in 1913, Diesel boarded a ship, ate dinner, walked to his cabin, and then seemed to vanish into the night without leaving a clear answer behind. Between looming war, high-stakes patent politics, and a private financial spiral, his final hours have been argued over for more than a century. Today we're digging into how the inventor of the diesel engine disappeared and has never been found. A brilliant start forced detours.
Rudolf Diesel was certain that it should be possible to build an engine with a very much higher efficiency.
Rudolf Christian Diesel was born in Paris in 1858 to Bavarian immigrants, and his early life was shaped by big events he did not choose. When the Franco-Prussian War erupted, his family fled France and settled in London while he was still young. Not long after, Diesel was sent to Augsburg in Bavaria to live with his uncle and aunt. The plan was practical: become fluent in German and get a serious education at the school where his uncle taught mathematics. Diesel thrived in school and won a scholarship to the Royal Bavarian Polytechnic of Munich. His father wanted him to stop studying and get a job, but Diesel pushed ahead anyway, even after battling typhoid. After graduating with top honors, he returned to Paris to work with Professor Carl von Linde, a major figure in refrigeration technology. Linde recognized Diesel's talent quickly and put him in charge of research and development, but Diesel's mind was already drifting beyond cold rooms and ice machines. An engine dream that nearly killed him.
It shows something about his mind, which is a curious mind. This is a man who, some say, suffered manic depression, maybe even had a nervous breakdown a year after this was in physical form, and certainly didn't look after his business interests, which became immensely problematic. And
Diesel's ambitions were fueled by an obsession with efficiency. He had studied thermodynamics deeply and fixated on the ugly reality that most fuel energy was wasted, sometimes by staggering amounts, with heat escaping instead of doing useful work. He experimented with bold ideas, including an engine using ammonia vapor. That experiment ended in disaster when the device exploded, nearly killing him and leaving him hospitalized for months. Still, he refused to let the accident end the dream. While others chased the new novelty of gasoline engines, Diesel kept hunting a different path, one built around high compression and better conversion of heat into work. He teamed up with major industrial backers, including Maschinenfabrik Augsburg, which later became associated with MAN Diesel, and Friedrich Krupp AG. With funding in place and a stubborn streak that never quit, he began years of trial, failure, and redesign. The long grind mattered, because what he was pursuing was not just a better engine, but an engine with a different personality, one that did not need a spark to wake it up. Breakthrough, patents, and a public sensation.
It's a bicycle pump with no outlet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Essentially, if you put it down here, so you've got the bottom here, you'd have some tinder and just a plunger piston. So let's see what happens when I push the plunger. And look at that, you get fire. That is the simple secret behind every diesel engine that has ever been made.
After more than 7 years of tinkering, Diesel reached an early milestone in 1892 with a successful patent for an engine that could run on powdered coal. It was not the final form, but it showed he was closing in on the core idea. He soon patented what he called the compression ignition engine. Instead of firing with a spark plug like a typical gas engine, it used compressed air to raise temperatures inside the cylinder so fuel would ignite from heat and pressure alone. Diesel returned to Augsburg and spent 4 years refining the concept into increasingly successful models. The peak moment came in 1897 with a 25 horsepower, 4-stroke, single vertical cylinder compression engine that proved the concept in a way industry could trust. When the engine appeared at the 1898 Munich exhibition, it became a hit with the public. It also came with a bigger promise. A compression design could be significantly more efficient than traditional gasoline engines, and Diesel believed efficiency could change who had power in the marketplace. From idealistic tool to military prize. Diesel imagined his invention as a helper for small businesses, craftsmen, and artisans. Diesel imagined his invention as a helper for small businesses, craftsmen, and artisans. In his mind, a reliable, efficient engine could let smaller operators compete with giants instead of being crushed by them. But it's worth noticing what New York Times bestselling author Doug Brunt points out about Diesel's original fuel vision, because it adds a whole new layer as to why powerful people might have felt threatened, or at least very interested. Diesel advocated flexibility with regard to fuels, getting back to his ammonia days and all that. The diesel engine, what he wanted was it to run on vegetable oil or nut oil, and he won the 1900 Paris World's Fair with a diesel engine running on peanut oil.
Diesel advocated flexibility with regard to fuels, getting back to his ammonia days and all that. The diesel engine, what he wanted was for it to run on vegetable oil or nut oil, and he won the 1900 Paris World's Fair with a diesel engine running peanut oil.
The twist is that the giants embraced the engine first anyway. Industrialists used diesel engines to power pipelines, water plants, trucks, and boats because big systems love dependable power. The engine's success made Diesel wealthy fast through patents and licensing, and his reputation turned him into a respected public figure. He also seemed ahead of his time in his concerns. He warned about air pollution long before it was fashionable, and he held views about how businesses should be owned that did not always flatter the powerful people writing the checks. Then the world darkened. By 1913, war was looming, and the diesel engine was no longer just an industrial marvel. It was a strategic asset, especially for submarines. According to accounts, the German Navy approached Diesel for exclusive rights to use the engine for its submarines, and he refused. The night he vanished at sea.
That in 1913, just before World War I, Rudolf Diesel, who at the time was as famous as Elon Musk, the history of him has really been paved over the last 120 years, but he disappears. And the prevailing thought was it was suicide. He was on a passenger ship going from Belgium to Great Britain. But there were two other theories that emerged in the headlines because it was front page news from New York, Western Europe, Moscow. Everyone was talking about the disappearance of Rudolf Diesel.
On a September morning in 1913, Diesel boarded a post office steamer bound for London. He was traveling for meetings, including at least one tied to the British Navy, a detail that makes his trip feel instantly charged with geopolitical risk. And listen to how Doug Brunt frames why that crossing matters, because it turns this into more than just a routine business trip.
The reason he was crossing the North Sea, going from Belgium to Great Britain when he disappears, September 1913, he disappears on an overnight passenger ferry going from Belgium to Great Britain. The reason he was going is he was a co-founder of a brand new diesel engine manufacturing company in Great Britain whose mandate it was to build diesels for the Royal Navy.
On the evening of September 29th, he dined aboard the ship and around 10 p.m. retired to his cabin. He requested a wake-up call for 6:15 a.m., a small detail that becomes haunting when you know what comes next. When the call came, there was no reply. A crew member entered the cabin and found a scene that looked strangely tidy, his nightshirt laid out on the bed, his watch removed and carefully placed, his hat and coat hanging neatly, and no sign of a struggle in that small space. Also notice the specific cabin details that Brunt describes, because the way the clues are laid out is exactly why people still argue about accident versus suicide versus something more deliberate.
They have dinner in the evening. They then walk the deck. They see the coast, the European side of the North Sea as they're putting out from Belgium and on their way. It's an overnight passenger ferry. So they have dinner. They make plans to meet for breakfast at 6 in the morning. And the other guys go to the breakfast cabin in the morning, and he's not there. And they think, oh, I wonder where Rudolph is. So they go back to his cabin, and they open the cabin up, and they just see a suitcase. They see a pad of paper that has a cross written on it in pencil. They search the ship. All they find are his hat and his coat neatly folded at the stern of the ship.
Diesel himself was gone. No confirmed sighting followed. No urgent note. No clear explanation. 10 days later, a Dutch ship encountered a corpse floating in the ocean, but decomposition was so advanced, the body was returned to the sea after items were recovered from the pockets. Evidence, money, and the theories that won't die.
And there were two murder suspects. One was Kaiser Wilhelm, the Emperor of Germany, and the other was John Rockefeller. the richest man in the world and founder of Standard Oil.
Among the items taken from the body were an ID card, a glasses case, and a pocket knife. These objects were later identified by Diesel's son, Eugen, as belonging to his father, which strengthened the belief that the body was Diesel, even if there was no formal identification. Back home, another detail added fuel to the mystery. Before leaving, Diesel gave his wife a bag with instructions not to open it for 1 week. Inside, she found a large sum of money, described as the equivalent of about $1.2 million today, along with documents suggesting he was near bankruptcy. If you want to understand why the money angle never really stops, notice what Brunt says about how slippery Diesel's financial situation is when you actually try to pin it down.
And they report that he was bankrupt too. But then if you go into their notes, they found what I found, which is, they actually say, one of them says, it is impossible to reconstruct the financial circumstances of Rudolf Diesel at the time of his death. I've said he's bankrupt, but that's because the newspaper said he's bankrupt.
That combination shocks people. How could a man made rich by world-changing patents be financially cornered? The paper trail implies debts, obligations, or mismanagement that were not obvious from the outside. Then there's the diary. Diesel left it on the ship, and the date of his disappearance had a page with an X. Some read that as a sign of death, others as a simple notation, and others as a clue meant to be found. From there, the theories branch out. Murder by German agents, removal by competitors, an accident overboard, or suicide driven by financial ruin and pressure. Now it's time to hear from you, and I'm curious where you land after hearing the facts as we know them. Do you think Rudolf Diesel vanished because someone wanted his engine for war, because his finances finally caught up with him, or because the simplest explanation is the most likely? Let us know in the comments section.